Oopsies. Alrighty, so Ash and Sarah, you guys ready to go?
Yep, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. Well, welcome everyone. We have a small group tonight presenting on our NOLS Alaska program. This is Alyssa Austin. I'm the director of the Travel and Service Programs here at camp.
And my name is Becky McCluskey, and I'm the assistant director of Travel and Service Programs.
And we're very excited to have two reps, Ash and Sarah from NOLS, who are joining us as well, just to bring that expertise to us. And so I'll just let you both introduce yourselves.
Go ahead, Sarah.
My name is Sarah Annarella, and I work in NOLS Custom Education. So I've worked with Alyssa and Becky to design this course and run it over the last couple years.
And I'm Ashley Wise. I'm the program manager up here at NOLS Alaska and have been the liaison from our location for the last couple of years with this course. We really enjoy working.
Great. All right. And so just want to orient you all to your screen. You should be able to see our PowerPoint that's up right now. And then over on the right-hand side of your screen, you should see a little chat box. That's where you will be able to ask any questions that you have in the end. And just because we do have a few people on this call, it would be helpful if you all can mute your microphones so that we're not getting a lot of feedback. And then you can keep webcams off, that's fine. And then Ash, Sarah, and us, we will just chime in as we see fit, but that would really help us out. And then just in terms of our agenda, we kind of break this presentation into thirds. And so the first part of the presentation is really going to be orienting you to things that you need to get done before the summer. So this is things like your NOLS account, making sure you get your paperwork done. And we're also going to talk a bit more generally about the NOLS program. And then we'll dive into the middle of the presentation where you're going to learn a lot more about the specifics of what you're going to expect once you get out there. And then we'll wrap it up with what we call like the nuts and bolts. This is things like packing questions, program logistics, transportation, and things like that.
Great. So because we're working in partnership with NOLS, that means leading up to the summer, families actually need to have 2 different accounts to make sure that you're completing all the paperwork for this course. So the most important account is your NOLS dashboard account. And in order to get access to the NOLS dashboard, you need to create an account and register with NOLS. So by this point, you should have that done already. If you don't know what I'm talking about or you don't have access to the NOLS dashboard yet, tomorrow, please give me a call or send me an email, and I'm happy to help explain how to get connected with NOLS. And the reason that's really important is because on the NOLS dashboard is where you can find a ton of information about your course and just relevant information for helping you get prepared. So it will have your packing list, it will have an agreement form, an emergency contacts form. It's also where you'll go to pay your $300 gear deposit. And it's also where you can access the NOLS health form, which you need to have completed by a physician in order to participate on the course. So again, the most important spot is creating that NOLS account and then gaining access to the NOLS dashboard. The second place that you should be familiar with already is your BCC YMCA camp account. And on that account, we also have some separate paperwork that we need you to complete for us on our end. And so one of those things is to upload a copy actually of your NOLS health form so that you don't have to have your doctor fill out 2 forms. We also need a copy of your insurance card, and then there's some other online forms that we ask you to fill out there. So when it comes to your camp account, especially for the primary and secondary contacts, please just double check your email information and make sure that's correct and that it's an account that you check regularly. And if it's not, please send us an email so we can update it for you. And then again, if you have any questions and you're not sure about paperwork that camp here at Becket-Chimney Corners needs from you or information that NOLS might need from you, please just give us a call and we'd be happy to get that sorted out. So there's a lot of different tasks we ask families to stay on top of leading up to the summer. So as I mentioned, please make sure you're checking both your NOLS account and the NOLS dashboard and your camp account. Also, please make sure you're uploading that copy of the NOLS health form to your Becket-Chimney Corners account once that's complete. And then leading up to the summer, we hope you're getting really excited. It's fast approaching. And so again, on that NOLS dashboard, it has a lot of really helpful information for you to read through to help get prepared for the course. As it gets closer to the summer, we're going to be in touch with you via email so that we can send you a copy of your flight itinerary. And then we'll also, of course, send you reminders about your check-in here at camp. And then in June, during our staff training, your camp leader, Campbell, will give all of you a call just to say hello and to see if you have any last-minute questions before your course begins.
Great. And so I think, as all of you are aware, this program differs quite a bit from a lot of the other programs that we offer here at camp. And we really realized that not everybody wants to or is able to have the opportunity to get onto our LIT track, which is really the track to becoming a counselor. And we really want to have an opportunity here at camp where our participants can continue to develop their leadership skills, which is why we're so excited about this program, because it definitely is an advanced leadership development program and also focuses on outdoor skills and environmental learning. So you're going to learn, these are kind of the general program goals, and you're going to learn a lot more about that once we get in, a little bit deeper into the presentation.
So leading up to and during the summer, we have responsibilities that we ask parents to take on to help us prepare both you and your child for their NOLS experience. And so the first, as I mentioned before, is just making sure that you're staying on top of all that paperwork and reading through the various trip materials, especially items on the NOLS dashboard and a parent guide that we emailed out. If your child has any medical or behavioral needs, please let us know about that now, and also how you help to manage those at home. We'll take that information and we'll pass it along to Campbell, the camp trip leader, and she'll use it just to try to help make it a more successful summer for your child on their program. This course is an amazing opportunity for young people to learn more about themselves and grow as leaders. And so we just encourage parents to remember to allow your child the space they need to be fully immersed in this experience. And as we get closer to the summer and during the summer itself, if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to us. We're here to help support you with any concerns that you might have. So again, just be in touch if you have any questions. And while your child's on their NOLS course, it's okay for parents to go on vacation, but we must be able to reach you by phone and by email.
And just as parents have responsibilities on these programs, of course, so too do our participants. So as I mentioned, this is an advanced leadership program, and you really do play an active role in the experience that you and your group will have on this trip. And so first of all, we just want you to, of course, just fully engage in the program. You're going to be faced with a lot of new challenges and a lot of new things to try in this program, and we just want you to bring your whole self to step up to the plate. Looking out for each other as well as yourself, and really taking the time to communicate those needs, because if you feel that you have a need that's not being met, the best thing you can do is to communicate that to your BCCY trip leader as well as your NOLS instructor so that they can help you with things. Of course, also keep track of your things. You're going to find as we get deeper into this presentation that your gear on these programs is very, very important and not easily replaced when you're out in the middle of a wilderness. And of course, stepping outside of your comfort zone, as I mentioned, you definitely are going to be challenged on this program, both physically and mentally, and we really want you to rise to that challenge. And then, of course, last but not least, just being a positive representative of Becket-Chimney Corners YMCA.
Excellent. So now we're going to get into more specifics of what it will actually be like when you're out in Alaska on your course. And so we're actually going to pass it over at this point to Sarah and Ashley to just talk a little bit more about some more of the specifics while you're out there. So Alyssa, if you could make sure that Ash can, oh great, and we can go to the next slide too. Oh good.
Great. Yeah, I can just talk about the route a little bit, and Sarah can talk about the daily itinerary. The course area, if you can see the slide, is just right about where the C is in course route. It's an area we call the Northern Talkeetnas. The cursor's being put over there, and pretty spectacular views of Denali when you get up high. But essentially, we start in the north part of that range and do a little horseshoe loop, or a pretty significant horseshoe loop, and then come out on the west side of that range in the Northern Talkeetnas. And Sarah, do you want to talk itinerary?
Yes, I think we maybe skipped a step. So we don't publish or share or even create a daily itinerary for courses. This course is long, in the 3-week range, and there's structure to every day, and I can go through what that structure looks like. But basically, your course is bookended and planned around where you get dropped off, where you get picked up, and then where you will get resupplies of food and fuel. So there's 2 resupplies during this 21-day course. So you carry 6 to 7 days worth of food at any given time, 6 to 7 days of food and fuel. So the day you get dropped off, you have 6 days to make it to your first resupply. And the instructors will mostly plan the route for that first ration. And then as the course progresses, the daily itinerary, or where you camp every night, sometimes might be up to the students, and they would make that decision as a leadership team, or they might decide to have a really short day and climb a peak in the evening and then have a much longer day the next day. So we try to leave a bunch of the itinerary open for students to make decisions. The actual way that the day works is that you wake up usually around 7, 8, have breakfast. Often there's some sort of class or activity before you start hiking, and then you have the hiking day, which is led by a student leader. And you get into camp somewhere between 1 and 6 o'clock at night, depending on how long your day is. You might have an evening activity, almost always an evening meeting, and then to bed, and sometimes briefing for the next day's activities too.
Great.
So the group will fly, you all will fly from Massachusetts, and you'll arrive in Anchorage. And the House of Jade is a bed and breakfast that we have a partnership with. And the House of Jade will pick up the group at the airport and bring you back to their bed and breakfast, which is kind of a mix between a bed and breakfast and a nice hostel. They'll feed you dinner and breakfast, and then NOLS will pick the group up at the House of Jade the next morning and drive about 45 minutes north to our campus in Palmer, Alaska.
Okay, and yeah, once you arrive, this is a really nice slide because it shows our 40-acre farm based in Palmer, and you have these bays, which is that small red building down to the right. You have a covered space there where your instructors will kind of lay out all the gear that you've brought, and you'll have your own little pile, and there's whiteboards. You'll look at checklists there. You'll learn how to set up your tents, and you'll go over all the gear you've brought and then reference that with what we have in our store for rent or for purchase. And you'll spend half the day kind of prepping your equipment that way. And then you'll spend the other half of the day going into our rations room with the instructors, and you'll be bagging rations for the entire course. So it's a full day process, or pretty busy day one at the farm, but you won't be leaving for the field until the next day.
Great. And so I know, oh, sorry. Our participants in the past didn't realize that NOLS stands for National Outdoor Leadership School, and that there is a school side to this course. Could one of you speak to that a little bit?
Sure, I can do that. NOLS is a school. We teach outdoor skills, environmental studies, and leadership. And there are lessons and curriculum that happen every day. And some of it is more formal than others. Sometimes you'll have a 10-minute mini class in the morning. And then as the day goes on, your instructor might ask you to reflect on whatever that class was in the morning and how you're applying new information throughout the day. So topics can range from group decision making to leave no trace principles, navigation, which includes map, compass, and GPS. And then also there's all the outdoor skills of how to live comfortably, how to cook good food, how to bake in the backcountry, and how to take care of yourself and your course mates. There's very formal leadership curriculum, and then there's formal leadership practice. So all students will get multiple chances to be designated leaders of the day. So either by yourself with a group of peers and an instructor, or co-leading with another designated leader, you will run the day from start to finish, the navigation day. And students will get feedback on their leadership and expedition behavior throughout the course. Everyone receives a grade at the end of the course on their formal evaluation, and that reflects growth and effort.
Great. And Ash, could you speak to just how varied the terrain and the weather might be that the group will experience?
Yeah, I'm seeing you all got feedback from participants from last year that it's hard to really grasp what type of terrain is in Alaska if you haven't been there before, and it's hard to just look at one slide and know what you're getting into. But you can see from these photos, the terrain is very rugged, and there's no trails really. The trails that you do find might be an old ATV trail that has a big puddle in it like that one, or you have a game trail like a moose game or caribou. And so you spend a lot of time just trying to figure out how you're getting to your campsite that night. And the instructors will work with you quite a bit to figure out route finding and that type of thing. But in general, it's just very challenging terrain where you might have river crossings. You can see that there's one, and that's actually from one of the courses down to the left there. So not a huge, in this mountain range, there's not huge river crossings, but certainly you're going to be getting wet. And it's really good practice to learn how to do that skill. And then just getting up and over passes is a big challenge. You might have snow or the kind of the rock scree that you see there, or tundra. This high alpine tundra is soft and spongy. So your mileage is really slow. You think, oh, I can go 4 miles in a day, no problem. But in the in the northern Talkeetnas, that might take all day and be a really strenuous day. So just trying to let people know that it's going to be very terrain and really challenging. Having good sturdy boots is really important as well. But yeah, we can move on to the next slide. Yeah, folks ask quite a bit about the wildlife. I think they've got caribou antlers there. And it's pretty amazing in the northern Talkeetnas this time of year. I've seen hundreds of caribou come through camp, which is pretty stunning. And there are brown bears in that area, grizzly bears, and those are kind of the two main that you'll see, and you'll be taking a lot of precaution in the way that you camp and travel in bear country. And the main gist of it is that you won't be traveling alone. Even when you're going to the bathroom, you're traveling in groups of 4, or when you're going from your kitchen to your tent. So everything's in groups of 4 and just making lots of noise. So those are the two main wildlife that we'll be seeing out there. Great, I can talk about the cooking and hiking groups. And essentially, you'll be in groups of 3 to 4 in your cook groups, and a really unique rations process that I was alluding to, that you'll be bagging rations here that are raw ingredients, and you'll have an actual cookbook, excuse me, and be working on cooking meals with your peers, and your instructors will really help you figure out how to cook those meals. And you'll be hiking in smaller groups as well. You'll kind of divide in half or into 3 or 4 or 6 in a group hiking, and then you'll meet at the X with other groups. So this is a really great opportunity to navigate and to be a student leader of the day when you're divided up and making decisions for your smaller group. And one more thing to add, we don't have a sit-down lunch. You'll be actually using just trail snacks and making food for you to have in your Tupperware to bust out during the day. And so you're welcome to bring extra snacks that you're really psyched on. You can buy that at our rations room or bring it from home, and those can fly in every 6 or 7 days, obviously within reason. You don't want too much weight, but if you just love Snicker bars, you can have those, 1 a day flown in for you. So we're happy to accommodate that. The hygiene question we get asked quite a bit. It's, how are you washing clothes? How are you bathing out there? The main thing that we won't be doing is contaminating on any water source with soap. So you're welcome. We bring little things of Dr. Bronner's soap. You would just get a pot of water from a stream and then take it 100 feet away from that stream, and you can wash your long underwear that way, or you can bathe if you want to. But in general, there's not a lot of bathing happening, but it is available if you'd like to. Your instructors will kind of give you more details on how to do that.
So leadership is one of the main focuses of this course. And I know sometimes it makes students nervous because they think, I don't have any formal leadership experience. I don't see myself as a leader. That is totally fine. NOLS leadership curriculum is based on the belief that everyone can be a leader and that leadership skills can be improved through training and practice. So we have a leadership model that we call the 4-7-1 model, that there are 4 leadership roles, 7 skills, and that everyone has a signature style of how they implement them. And what we're really good at is breaking the leadership curriculum down and showing you how to do it. I think sometimes people come to a NOLS course with this idea that leadership is a thing that you either have it or you don't, and that is not what we teach or believe. So we teach that leadership is everywhere and always. It's how you wake up in the morning, it's how you treat your tent mates, it's how you communicate about the weather. And we give students an immense amount of time and lots of opportunities to take official and unofficial leadership roles. And we provide near constant feedback and coaching. And we also teach students to give each other peer feedback. So we'll give you the concrete tools and skills, we'll give you time to practice, and then we give you feedback. And we believe that the skills that you learn on this course are transferable to any environment. So home and school being the primary ones. And some people ask what makes a successful NOLS student, and many people think that physical strength is number one, but it's not. Attitude and effort are 90% of the predictors of success on a NOLS course. So we like to foster a growth mindset that values effort and process over results. It's okay to make a map reading mistake and get lost. We expect that to happen. And it's part of the learning process. So being organized, being kind, willing, and thoughtful, and having good self-care, those are the things that help people succeed on their NOLS course.
All right, a typical day on trail. This is a great image of students looking at the terrain and trying to figure out how are we going to get from point A to point B. But what it would look like is the morning session, you would have a set time from your instructors to be ready to go, and that means your backpack's already packed. And so if they say 9 o'clock, that means you have to have done the math with your peers. And just as Sarah's saying, it's kind of the self-leadership to be ready to have your kitchen broken down, tents broken down, and be at the meeting point on time. And you'll go over maps, and you'll figure out an actual X on the map with your other hiking groups, and you'll say, okay, this is where we're headed, and you'll make a plan with your small group on how you want to get there. And so you'll be leading that day with the instructor's help, and your peers will be using maps, and everyone's kind of in it together trying to get to that X at the end of the day. And the goal will be to get there safely and use the skills you have and not push yourself too much. You're going to take breaks when you need to, take water breaks. The key is, just to manage your time throughout the day, so you give yourself enough time to get to that final X throughout the day. So we're just building on skills every day. Could get more challenging, essentially, to try and get the skills you need, because you do have a point in the northern Talkeetnas. The planes can actually only land on lakes. You can see how rugged that terrain is. And so you will, in 6 days, have to get to that end point of a lake so you can get your food. So there's always this goal that you're working towards as you move throughout the day.
Great, and so now we're going to move into the third and final portion of our presentation, where we'll be talking about some of the various logistics connected to the course itself. So as Ashley already alluded to earlier in the presentation, your hiking boots and the gear that you bring on this course are extremely, extremely important. And so you can find your packing list on the NOLS dashboard under Prepare Your Gear. And when you're looking at that packing list, it's really important that you take your time reading through it and pay close attention, especially to the types of fabric that are listed for the various items, because especially when you're out in the backcountry, the materials that your clothing is made out of is extremely important and makes a big difference. And so, as I just mentioned as well, you want to make sure that you're getting the properly fitted hiking boots before the course begins, and also that you're taking the time to wear those boots a lot so that you're breaking them in and that they're comfortable and ready to go for while you're out on the course. So also on the dashboard, you can find a boot fitting guide. And you can also find contact information for a rep at NOLS who is more than happy to kind of talk through boot selection with you if you have any questions about that. So when it comes to getting all of your gear ready for the course itself, there's really kind of like 3 main approaches to making sure that you have all the items that you need. So the first step is just looking at what you already own or what you can borrow from other people. And definitely start there and bring those items. If there's anything that you're not sure about, bring it with you. And then, as you can see in this picture, once you get out to Palmer, your NOLS instructors will have you lay out all of your gear, and they'll let you know if those items are sturdy enough and acceptable to go out into the field with you, or if it's better for you to rent gear from them. And so that brings me to the second option. If you don't own an item or you can't borrow it, there's always the option to rent certain items from NOLS itself. And so this is where the $300 gear deposit comes in. Everyone's required to pay this, but then if you end up not renting any gear from NOLS, you get all of that money back, or any unused money back, at the end of the summer. On your packing list, it clearly specifies which items it's possible to rent from NOLS and which ones you cannot, so just make sure you check that closely. The renting option is extremely helpful especially for larger and really the most significant items that you'll bring out there with you. So especially items like your rain gear, insulated jackets, your backpack, your sleeping bag. And the beauty of renting the item is that you know then that it's suitable for the terrain and suitable for the weather conditions that you're going to experience while you're out on the course. It also gives you a chance to test the items out, and NOLS has a really great system where after you rent the item, at the end of the course, if you would like to, you can buy the item from them so that you can take it home with you. And then the third option for getting gear is to purchase it ahead of time and then bring it with you out to Alaska. And anytime you're buying gear for this course, we highly recommend that you save any receipts from your purchases, just in case you end up not using the item. You can always return it at the end of the course. And it's really helpful to keep in mind also for anything that you bring with you out to Alaska that it will likely be very heavily used. So it might get covered in mud, it will likely be very sweaty, and it will definitely be well worn and well used by the end of the course. So just keep that in mind when it comes to packing. There's also just a couple of details that I like to recommend to families. The first is that we suggest that everybody actually bring 2 spare sets of clean clothes for this program. The first set of clean clothes is for you to leave here at camp. So you can bring just a spare small duffel bag with you, and you can leave those clothes behind here at camp so that when you get back to camp at the end of the course, you have some clothes that you can change into. I also just want to remind everybody as well that if you are going to rent certain items like a sleeping bag from NOLS, that's great. It's also helpful to still bring a camp sleeping bag with you so that you've got your bedding while you're here during your orientation and debrief before you get out to Alaska. And then the second spare set of clothes is what you can leave at the NOLS headquarters in Palmer before your course begins. And the idea behind that is so that at the end of the course, once everything's wrapped up and you've had a chance to shower, you can change into those fresh, clean clothes. And then that way you have fresh, clean clothes for your flight back to the East Coast as well. And the last item that I just like to point out, because I think it's a nice little detail, is we encourage everybody to also bring stamped envelopes and letter writing supplies if you want to send letters or postcards home to your friends and family members.
So physical conditioning, the best way to start physical conditioning for your NOLS course is to just start doing something and don't stress too much about what it is. NOLS courses have long days, and so what we really want people to develop is the ability to function from 7 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night and have that stamina and endurance. So the plan would be different for everybody. If you're already in spring sports and you have practice every day after school, maybe that's enough. If you're not playing spring sports, I suggest you start going on some hikes or join a class at your gym or do some sort of strength training. Whatever it is that's fun for you, that helps you get in a little bit better shape. And this is important. The better shape you're in, the more you'll be able to enjoy your NOLS course and be less focused on how hard the day was. But preparing ahead of time tends to give people confidence as well as building physical strength. And mostly you just want to have energy at the end of these long days left to set up tents, cook dinner, and take care of yourself. So find something fun and just do whatever works for you, but do something.
So the group will be supervised by Campbell, your camp leader, during your orientation and debrief here at camp, and then also on your transit days when you're going out to Alaska and coming back to the East Coast from Alaska. And during that time, it's possible that your camp leader will give you a little bit of free time, especially when you're in Anchorage and possibly when you're in the airport. And so what that means is there are periods where you might not be directly supervised by your camp leader. And before that starts, your trip leader will always go over just some of the guidelines that we have for that free time. And so what that entails is you will always be in groups of 4 or more during the free time. And the idea behind that is if one person were to get hurt or just not feel very well, a second person could stay with the first one and the other 2 campers could go get help. Your trip leader will also set up some type of designated boundary. So if you're in the airport, for instance, she might say you need to stay within that particular terminal. And then she'll also set up a specific meeting time and location. And for anyone who did travel and service programs last year, you'll be familiar with this. Everyone will also be issued an ID card that has contact information for us here at camp, and then also contact information for NOLS and the bed and breakfast where you'll be staying, and a cell phone that your trip leader will be carrying. So if you were to get separated for some reason, you've got phone numbers for all of us. And Ashley, could you talk a little bit about what supervision is like on the course itself?
Sure. You'll have 2 instructors on the course, and they'll be, say, at camp, you've got a communal kitchen where the instructors will be cooking in their group of 2, and then you'll be in a group of 3 or 4, and you'll all be right with each other. And then even in your sleeping area, your instructor tent will be right nearby. So basically, instructors will be with you all the time and always able to coach and supervise, but they're hoping to help guide you with your own kind of learning and leading out there.
Great. And so all of you should have received by now the notification that Campbell Hart is the trip leader for this program, the BCCY leader. And so we sent you her bio. She's a multi-year TSP leader and also has extensive history at Chimney Corners. So she's very familiar with camp. And really her role on the program, she's gonna reach out to all of you at the end of June during our staff training just to check in with both parents and participants. And then she will be here when you get up to camp, so she'll welcome you and will be with you throughout the orientation here at camp. And then as Becky mentioned, she will also fly out with you to Alaska, where you will then meet your NOLS instructors. And really the role of the BCCY leader is really to help maintain that connection to camp, because while this program is a NOLS program, it's also a camp program. So it's one of those hybrids, and we really want it to feel like a camp program. And so she's going to be there to support you throughout the entire program from beginning to end, really acting as a mentor. But our trip leaders that we have go on these programs are not wilderness experts, and that's where NOLS comes in. And so once you actually get up to Alaska, you will meet your NOLS instructors, and they're really responsible for you once you're on the program, and Campbell is in more of a mentor role. And so I'm going to hand it over to Ashley just to talk a little bit about your NOLS instructors, their qualifications, and how you train them and choose them and so forth.
Great. Yeah, we're excited. It looks like Tim Shortell is coming back again as the trip leader. He led it last year. So that's always nice when you have that continuity. He understands what your program's about. But the 2 instructors, they go through an instructor course with NOLS, and Tim's been working at the school for over 15 years. And I think Mary is another instructor that you have. So they've done a 30-day instructor course with us. They have wilderness first responder training, and they go through all sorts of seminars and basically just stay up to date with what they need to do as a NOLS instructor. So they've got quite a bit of field experience and to help assist you all out there. And they really enjoy working with this age group and population. I think they both have requested this type of course. So we're excited to have them come in on this one.
Nice. Great. So communication for this program works a bit differently from all of the other Becket-Chimney Corners programs because the group is going to be in such a remote setting. And so I'm going to break this down again kind of into 2 parts where I'll talk about communication while the group is at Becket-Chimney Corners and then traveling out to Alaska and back from Alaska. And then I'll pass it off to Sarah to talk a little bit about how communication will work through NOLS once you're actually on the course. So Becket-Chimney Corners will be in touch with families via email, sending you updates when we hear from the trip leader and they let us know that they've landed out in Anchorage. And then similarly at the end of the program, once they land back on the East Coast, we'll send an email out to everybody letting you know. If someone were to get sick or hurt while the group was here at Becket-Chimney Corners or traveling on their way out to Alaska, Alyssa and I or our program assistant, Olivia, will reach out to families directly and let you know what's going on. The NOLS course is the one program here at camp where participants, you are allowed to bring your cell phone, but we do place a lot of restrictions on your access to the cell phones and their use. So basically, when you get to camp, we will collect your cell phones from you and we're going to store them in Alyssa's office. And then you'll get them back before you leave camp to fly out to Alaska. And while you're on your course, you also will not have your cell phones. They'll be locked at the NOLS headquarters. So really, your cell phone use time is restricted to before your course begins when you're out in Alaska and once your course has fully wrapped up and you're still out in Alaska. One thing that's really important for parents to realize, especially if you were on a travel and service program last summer, is that while your child is on their NOLS course, you will not be getting updates from us. And you really should not expect to hear from your son or daughter at all, because really the only way for them to be in touch is to write a letter that they then send with the resupply pilot. So once your child begins their course, you won't be hearing from us at all. And then Sarah, can you just talk about communication on the course itself and how that works through NOLS?
Yes. As mentioned earlier, if you want to hear from your students while they're on a course, make sure they have stamped, addressed envelopes and are encouraged to write. We do carry communication devices in the field, primarily a satellite phone, and that is for emergency use only. If there is an evacuation, if your student is ill or injured or needs to come out of the field for any reason, you would receive a call from the evacuation coordinator at NOLS Alaska. And they would guide, tell you what the plan is for getting your student out and be in consistent touch with you until either your student was home with you, having been evacuated, or sometimes students will come out of the field for some sort of minor injury or illness, get treated at a medical facility and go back into the field. Sometimes that can be arranged, not always. Mostly what we tell parents is no news is good news. And this is sort of an old-fashioned wilderness experience where your student walks into the wilderness and they walk back out 21 days later and they have their own experience and they'll tell you about it when they call you from Anchorage or when they get home. If there is an emergency at home and you want to contact your child, you would get in touch with NOLS Alaska. And by emergency, we mean ill family member. Things that don't qualify are ill family dog and things like that. Because contacting and finding those courses is challenging. It involves planes or helicopters.
Thank you. All right, and so I believe everyone actually who is on this program has been through a TSP program, so you all should be aware of the behavioral standards that we have for our programs. I'd say that, as we've mentioned a couple times, NOLS really is an even more advanced program in terms of leadership and really does require a high level of maturity to attend these programs. So we do have high standards for behavior and program because really, like, behavioral issues are not necessarily just a distraction. They really can be a safety issue. So we certainly take this very seriously. So you all are aware that we do have a set of rules we call non-negotiable rules This means that if one of these things happened even once on a program, it would mean an immediate send home. I'm just going to go through that list pretty quickly. So that's any drinking alcohol on a program, any smoking of anything, anything that's additionally illegal. An example, we had a participant shoplift on a program. That's a clear no-no, would mean an immediate send home. Any sexual activity, and then any intentionally leaving the group. So Becky and Ash talked a little bit about supervision on the program. Those guidelines will become a lot clearer to you once you come up to camp, but it really is that you're intentionally trying to leave the group just because that is just simply not a safe thing. And then I also want to just pass it over to Ashley as well, just to talk a little bit about NOLS, your standards on the program for once you actually get onto the trip, just in terms of managing behavior.
Yeah, thank you. It's very similar to what you were mentioning, but what the instructors will do will be to try and set clear boundaries around language and expectations that they have of you all. And if those aren't being met, they'll start out with having a one-on-one conversation with you. And if it continues to not be met, that can become a written performance agreement. And usually at that point, once it's written, they'll let us know at our location, hey, we're having a challenging behavior issue in the field, and they'll still try and give it 72 hours and work through things. But at some point, they reserve the right to make that call if somebody needs to leave, if they're not behaving properly. And that expense would go on to the person that's leaving.
And Ash, can you talk just a little bit about what the procedure would be if somebody were taken out of the field? Like, who do they go with, and how do they actually get back home?
Great. Yeah, so they would likely exit the field with our re-ration person. So they would get them to a lake that they could pick them up at, or it might be lined up with a re-ration that's already happening. And then we would just send a driver and a vehicle to that airplane hangar that's about 4 hours away and pick them up and bring them back to the NOLS base and get all their clothing, all their belongings, and just arrange travel with their parents to, and then we would also get them to the airport as well. So yeah, just be a lot of communication with family at that point.
Great, thank you.
So your program tuition and your gear deposit covers all expenses for this program, so you don't need to bring any additional spending money, but a lot of participants like to have some personal spending money for snacks or gifts. I will say on this program, your options for shopping are pretty limited, but there are some moments when you're in the airport in Anchorage, and certainly when you're at the NOLS outfitting department, where you could potentially purchase items. And so if you do decide to bring spending money, we recommend bringing no more than around $200. And participants are responsible for carrying your own money. And so with that in mind, we often encourage campers to bring it in two different forms. So usually about $60 in cash, and then around $140 on a debit card if you have one. And with that, just make sure that you know the PIN number for the card and understand how to use it before you come out to camp and then head out to Alaska. If for some reason you run out of funds or your card isn't working, it is possible for our camp leader to use her credit card from camp to issue you more funds. But before we do that, we always reach out to parents first and get your permission and ask you to specify a clear amount that you'd like our camp leader to pass along. And so if that happens, sometimes there's an ATM or a credit card fee associated with that transaction. And the group's leader at the end of the summer will just put together a billing letter and send that out to families at that point.
Okay, I can talk more about that. We've covered a few of these topics, but in general, the instructors, as I said, are trained in backcountry medicine, and they'll have first aid kits, and they actually have a drug kit as well. And they work really hard to kind of prevent those minor injuries from becoming a major injury. And they'll, if it's blisters or something like that, they're working with you, and it really is going to be part of your leadership to say, hey, I'm starting to have a hot spot on my foot and I need some assistance. Because once it gets to where it's, you know, unusable, then it could lead to an evac. With the evacuation is really the last resort. We do everything we can to keep you all in the field, and it might mean that your peers are carrying your weight and you're just working through as you heal. That's kind of the first line that we go through. But we've already talked about what we do if we need to evac some folks. And returning to the field is really challenging. Sarah was alluding to that. Because it involves a plane, it involves figuring out where your group is, and they have to be near a lake, and then it involves our location being able to get you back up the 4 hours to the hangar. So it's usually not an option to get back in the field. Once you're out, you're heading home is the main point to make.
Great. And then during your time at camp, between when you arrive at camp for your check-in all the way up until once you arrive in Alaska up at the NOLS Center, and also for your debrief, the same standards apply in terms of communication around healthcare as applied to your TSP program. And so that means that if we do have to bring a participant to higher level medical care, we'll always be in touch with families. So we'll reach out to you just to let you know what's going on. We'll also be able to put you in touch with your son or daughter just in case you have any questions for the doctor and so forth. And I think sometimes some families, it can be a little bit confusing just because this is a hybrid program. So you really have 2 points of contact. It's either with BCC YMCA, like you're used to from camp and also from TSP, or it's with NOLS. And I'd say that if you're ever confused, you can always reach out to camp, and we're happy to help you figure out who is the best contact to ask your question of. So just know that we're very supportive of you throughout the summer and do have on-call cell phones to answer all your questions.
All right. Yeah, we love talking about food at NOLS, but it's pretty awesome that what we can do with these raw ingredients. Making pizza is a big activity, making cinnamon rolls, brownies. And so cooking is quite a big part of what we're doing out there. If you might be experienced backpacker, maybe you use just quick, ready, freeze-dried meals. But this obviously takes some time, and it's a really nice communal space and just incredible views and just a nice way to spend the morning in the evening. So yeah, you will learn how to make pizzas, and we do. We have over 700 students that come through here in the summer, so we can really adapt well to allergies and dietary restrictions. We just need to know what those are ahead of time so we can tell our rations people to start bagging with that.
All right, and then as for transportation, we have booked the group's flight, and you'll be traveling with Sun Country out to Alaska, and we'll send out that flight itinerary later in May. And then similar to what you've experienced on TSP, we work with a local bus company called Dufour to transport our participants from camp out to the airport. And then we do get lots of questions about collecting frequent flyer miles. I believe Sun Country, you can get mileage. So if you want just to go to their website, you can sign up with an account and just let me know what the number is, and I'll send that off to our travel agent so you can get those.
So your group will spend a few days together at camp before and after the NOLS course. So check your parent guide for your specific check-in time, or reach out to us if you can't remember where to find your parent guide. The check-ins and the group's check-out will always be at the Chimney Corner Sign Barn, which is across the street from our administration building. And at the group's check-in, Alyssa and I will give a brief presentation covering a lot of the things that we just talked about this evening. And then participants, you'll say goodbye to your family members, and then you'll begin your orientation with your camp leader. So you'll be spending the first couple of days doing lots of icebreaker games and team building activities, and you'll talk about how to prepare mentally for your time on the NOLS course. And then you'll head out. And so at the end of the program, once you return back to camp for your debrief, it'll be just some nice time again to reflect on your experiences as a group, And then you'll also put together a photo slideshow that you'll share with your families when they come for your group checkout.
All right. Well, thanks for sticking around, everybody. We're now going to open it up to any questions that you have. So just because we do have a fair number of people on the call, just so we're not talking over each other, you can find the chat box, which is over on the right-hand side of your screen. We'll give it a little bit of time for you to think of anything you might want to ask, but feel free just to type in a question there, and we will just answer them in the order that they come in. Great. So we have a question here. How long has the second counselor been at NOLS?
Okay.
How long has Mary? Yeah, Mary, the second counselor, or the second NOLS instructor.
Yeah.
She started working, I'm just looking at her file, last year. This will be her second course.
Great. And then we have a question about NOLS account. I went to sign up for my NOLS account and it asks for personal information. Is that for me or my son?
I can answer that one. That is for your son.
Great. All right. Any other questions going once? Oh, here we go. Seems like the equipment list is missing some key items. For example, backpack, hiking stick, tent, bear bell recommended. Should books be waterproof fishing equipment?
I can speak to that one. Backpack should definitely be on there. I'm not looking at the equipment list right now. A hiking stick, they may have trekking poles in the optional portion of it. And then tents are provided by NOLS. So tents, stoves, pots, pans, maps, bear spray are all part of what we call group equipment. And that packing list is specific to personal equipment. We don't recommend bear bells. We have students making more noise than that using their voices, and we do bear calls. Books don't need to be waterproof, but they should be in a Ziploc plastic bag. We have fishing equipment that we would issue if the route had fishing possibilities. Maybe, I don't remember this route having much fishing in the past, but Ash, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah.
Oh, and boots, not books. Okay, so I see that now. Most boots these days, it's fine and great if they have like a Gore-Tex piece to the construction of the boot. The way that a lot of these students are going to get their feet wet is by actually walking in water, where Gore-Tex doesn't help you, but I've had Gore-Tex boots and they've been great. I don't think it's necessary. And fit is more important than the waterproof piece, but it can be nice.
Yeah, the question about fishing, a few of the lakes that you'll be at, even with your re-rations, they have some fishing. It's not great for fishing, but the licenses are pretty expensive. So you can talk with your instructor and see if you want to try and coordinate getting a 14-day license that'll line up with the lakes that you go to. So it's more about how excited you are to fish. Your instructors are happy to support that, but it's not like you're catching fish every day and really offsetting the meal preparation, just be in addition to some meals.
Ashley, how expensive do you know for 18 and under?
It's about $85 for a week-long license and over 100 for a 2-week license, and you might catch one fish, so that's an expensive fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, go ahead. Did you want to finish that one up?
Well, no, and then I just saw there was a question about the approximate weight of backpacks, and we really are just trying to have a percentage over your body weight, but your instructors will work hard to kind of trim down that pack weight. But the range can be about 40 pounds to 55 pounds, the pack weight, because you are carrying quite a bit of group gear and 6 days of food, so it adds up compared to maybe a personal weekend trip.
And Ash, just to follow up on the fishing question, is it a license that's needed per person or is it for the group?
Yeah, it's per person.
Okay.
So, I mean, yeah, your instructors, unless somebody's like, I really am excited to fish, they might discourage it. It's the gist of what I'm getting at.
Okay, great. Also had a question about sleeping bags. What temperature should they be rated to?
Well, we rent a bag for a really reasonable price, and that's probably the way to go unless you have a bag that you love to use and it is synthetic. That's the key. It can't be a down bag. It's just so wet in this environment. So, I mean, we say about a 20-degree bag, but it's all very subjective on how the loft of your bag is doing. But if in doubt, just like any other gear, if you think it's a great sleeping bag and you already own one, you can bring it and your instructors will kind of rate it for you here, or just use one of ours here.
I think the key there is that a 40-degree bag is not going to be warm enough. So 20 degrees or colder.
Great. And then had a more general question just about what gear is recommended to rent.
Yeah, I would say our gear it gets so abused when you're out there for 21 days that we recommend renting as much as you can, because then you can just give it back versus damaging some of your own gear. So I always say you look at the equipment list and see all the things that are rentable and just rent everything. But if you line up, that I have a really nice rain jacket and I want to use it, you should bring that versus, the Gore-Tex jacket we'll give you here. So it's kind of preference, but I would err on the renting as much as you can.
I think the exception to that is if you are really, really small or really, really large. We carry size small through large or extra large. But sometimes I think some smaller students who might be in the 90 to 100 pound range, some of our adult size smalls can be a little bit big for them.
Thanks.
And the Leatherman question, I mean, it's nice to have one Leatherman on the course, kind of to share between folks, but they are quite heavy, even the newer ones. You don't need a Leatherman out there. Your kitchen has what you need in it as far as spatula and that kind of thing. Ultimately, folks can get more injured from having too many Leathermans around, just actually cutting themselves. But certainly bring it if you really enjoy using it, and your instructors can say, hey, this one person's going to bring a Leatherman if you need it. But we try and discourage having 6 Leatherman tools out there.
All right. Well, I think we are going to wrap it up then. So thank you everyone for joining the call. We did record this, so for anyone that couldn't make it or just wants to rewatch it, I will send out the link sometime tomorrow for you to view. And then just want to give a big thank you to Ashley and Sarah for joining. That was very helpful.
Great. Look forward to seeing you all.
Yeah, and if anyone does have any other questions, definitely just feel free to reach out to us because we're here and looking forward to the summer. So thanks so much, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone. And thank you, Ashley and Sarah. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.